4 months ago, before we knew anything about Louis's new album, I made this video talking about what I hoped or what I thought we would get for Louis's next era or next album. So now that the album is out, let's see how many of my predictions actually came true. And let me know in the comments which predictions or hopes you had for Louis's album or era, and if they came true or not. I do think he could lean a little bit more pop rock, obviously still respecting his trademark sound of, you know, electric guitars and live drums, but I do suspect a little bit more pop. Now this one is an interesting one because yes, but also no at the same time. Is it more poppy and mainstream? Yes. But at the same time, there's songs like Palaces and Jump the Gun that are very much Faith in the Future coded. But then at the same time, you have songs like Lazy, Sanity, Lucid that are so different from what we've ever heard from Louis before sonically. And I think I speak for a lot of us when I say that we could never have imagined that the album would sound like this instrumentally and with this kind of poppy yet very unique production. Lyrics-wise, I do think we're gonna see the same level of songwriting and artistry in that sense. When you listen to the song the first time, you're like, oh, this is a nice song. But then if you really listen to it, you're like, oh my god. So I definitely got this one right, which is, you know, unsurprisingly because we've known Louis forever and he's always been really into this type of songwriting. As I said in my Louis album deep dive video, there is so much depth to this album, so much lyrical depth. So many hidden meanings, so much in between the lines. Dark to Light is a beautiful example of Louis' songwriting, or even Lucid, which shows more of this abstract songwriting that Louis is also very capable of. I would hope that he feels more confident in his voice and his vocal ability in a way that we're gonna get a lot more high notes or like vocal runs. I'm happy to report that there's definitely more vocal confidence on this album. And while there aren't a lot of the typical, you know, high note vocal runs right after the bridge, you know, to make the last chorus more interesting kind of vocal runs and high notes, there's still a lot of vocal runs and a lot of cool ways that Louis uses his higher register. Lucid is my favorite example of this, just like the entire song is so beautiful and so soft. Also, honorable mention to In Jump the Gun, the oh right before the chorus. It's so confident, it's so good. He's really like learned how to mold his voice to fit the songs, and artistically and production wise it's just so well done. I would love some more teasers or Easter eggs. Like, I'm not saying full, you know, Taylor Swift mastermind insanity, but I do think like making fans work for it a little bit is kind of fun. Like decoding track lists, hinting at things. Lemonade and the promo around Lemonade was definitely where we saw the most Easter egging. There was the map to kind of find the Lemonade vending machine. There were the billboards across the world to kind of figure out the title of the album. And I remember at the time being like, oh my god, there's so much happening. They're really doing a lot of stuff. Like, oh my god, this is great. I'd obviously love a new color scheme for the era. For the new album, I'd personally love like a blue or like a multicolor, even like a yellow, like a sunshine yellow. I think that could be fun. Now, I'm not gonna say I predicted it, but I predicted it. The album is literally yellow with a blue sky. Granted, there's a bit of orange in there, but you cannot tell me that yellow and blue are not, in fact, part of it. I would love a solid, well-planned, well-structured, well-executed album rollout. If you're releasing an album every 3 years, that release has to be so well done. LTHQ did in fact do a lot of promo this time around. Except for December, which was surprisingly and depressingly quiet. They really did ramp up in January, which is, you know, what they had to do because the album came out in January. I also loved how many interviews Louis did. My favorites are the one with Zane Lowe and Zach Sang. I also loved that he did the pop-up events, the one night only shows, and also a lot of album signings where he got to meet a lot of the fans too. The fact that Niall and Zayn and Harry all moved at the same time was the most chaotic thing ever, but again, that's not really in Louis' team's control, but while overwhelming, I did enjoy the promo, especially in January. I also hope that the album has a solid identity and almost a theme. Not necessarily as themed as Niall's The Show, but something kind of in that direction. Dare I say that How Did I Get Here is Louis' most visually cohesive album yet. It just has such a strong identity. And the theme, I guess you could call it brighter days or summerish vibes, and I think it works really well with all the songs on the album. Is the album cover my favorite thing? No, but it makes sense once you listen to the album, and I'm really excited to see how they translate this, identity of this album onto a tour stage. What's going to be different from what we've seen from Louis before on tour. Music videos, I want them to be fully well done. If there's a good concept, a lot of effort put into it, and also if there's a really good storyline in the video itself. So we started out with Lemonade as the first music video of this era, and dare I say, it's one of my favorite Louis music videos by far. I loved how different, how abstract, how avant-garde almost it was, and it really made an impact both on the fandom but also the general public, because it was out there, and I think it was a really good choice to kind of start the promo rollout for this album. And then I have to admit that I was a little bit disappointed that we didn't get a music video for Palaces. I remember that me and a lot of other fans online, we genuinely thought that we were going to get a music video for Palaces in the week before Louis was set to play Jingle Bell Ball in the beginning of December. So when nothing happened, it was a bit confusing. I do think that it was a missed opportunity, and it kind of made Palaces feel like not really a single, even though it technically was a single. But then we had the Imposter music video right before the album dropped in January. This is a true return to the music video style that Louis Tomlinson truly just seems to love. It's the setup where we follow a couple, and Louis, yes, he is physically in the music video, but not as the main character, but more in the periphery, kind of like Kill My Mind or Don't Let It Break Your Heart. And symbolically, it's a beautiful music video once you dig into the meaning of it and really pay attention. But I can see how for the general public who don't necessarily read into the meanings of things, it might come across as a little bit boring, which I think is a shame. But then again, the storyline that we see in the music video does fit very well with the meaning of the song itself. And then back in that 4-month-old video, I also had a personal fangirl wish list. And I'm happy to say that some came true, some are still pending, and some I've since let go of. First, there was Louis playing the guitar on stage, which he has since talked about in interviews how he wants to keep the guitar for himself, which I think is totally fair. And then I also wanted acoustic versions of some of the songs, which obviously we haven't gotten yet, but it's still a possibility that we could get them. Just imagine Sunflowers, but just Louis' voice and a guitar. Stunning. And then I also wanted a deluxe album, which we did get with The Observer and The Answer as the 2 extra bonus tracks. And now here are the things about How Did I Get Here that surprised me the most. One of the most unexpected things, for me at least, was the sheer amount of demos that we got. Not leaked, officially released demos. We got 2 deluxe tracks and 7 demos, which is almost unheard of compared to other artists. And as I said in my album deep dive, these demos just give so much more extra context to the album. And it just gives so much more nuance to the storyline that we're told in the main album itself. I also didn't expect Dark to Light to hit as hard as it did. Yes, I suspected that we would probably get a song in some way related to Liam, but I didn't expect Louis to execute it in the way that he did, both lyrically but also production-wise. And it's just a beautiful song. And yes, I expected a beautiful song, but the way that Louis handled it so delicately, I think it really got to me. And lastly, I didn't expect the songs on the album to flow so well together. Because the tracklist isn't just, here's a collection of random songs. It feels more like a journey where we get to follow Louis through his journey of change over the past couple of years. It just makes it feel even more special, as I talked about in the deep dive. Again, go watch it. It's a good video. Enjoy. So to conclude, looking back now on that video I made 4 months ago, I don't think the conclusion is I was right or I was wrong. From a fan perspective, this era gave me a lot more than I expected. Musically, it's more impressive than I hoped for. And from a marketing perspective, it's clear that they've really put a lot of effort into making this Louis' best era yet. But most of all, as someone who's grown up with Louis' music and, followed him and his career for a while, this album just feels right. And as Louis said, this really does feel like the album that he always wanted to make. And I think that that's really beautiful. And with that, we made it to the end of the video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and let me know any of your thoughts below. And with that, have a nice day, have a nice week, and I'll see you again in my next video. Bye!